Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our revered speaker, His Grace SALIKA Prabhu. And all glories to the assembled Vaishnavi devotees. Today we have His Grace SALIKA Prabhu, who will be speaking to us from the Srimad Bhagavatam, who needs no introduction. So Prabhuji will put the verse on the screen and then you may begin.
All right, Prabhuji, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Narayachaivam Naruttamam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tatu Jayam Dhirai Nasta Aprayesu Abhadresu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttaman Sloke Bhakti Bhagavati Naistiki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Goddess Narayan, unto Narayan Vishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of land and thoughts, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author of the Srimad Bhagavatam, by regular attendance in classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart, is almost completely destroyed, and all loving service unto the personality of God, who is praised with transcendental song, is established as an irrevocable fact. Hare Krishna. So, welcome all of you. Sorry, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So I'll use a slide today.
Okay, sure. All right, so let's do this.
Okay. So, dear devotees, please accept my respectful obeisances on Guru Srila Prabhupada. So, today we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're reading from 3rd Canto, Chapter 2. Today we're discussing from text number 29. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll read the Sanskrit text. Saeva Godanam Lakshmiyaha Neketam Sita Govrisham Charayan Anugan Gopam Ranad Venuari Ramat Saeva Godanam Lakshmiya Neketam Sita Govrisham Charayan Anugan Gopam Ranad Venuari Ramat.
Prabhuji, we cannot see all the texts because there is a black screen covering the text.
Ah, that is strange. From my hand, everything is okay.
It's visible? No, it's not visible on our screen.
Okay, let's try it again and see.
Same problem.
Why is that? That's strange.
I don't know if it's just from my end. Does any devotee also see the black screen?
Yes, it's blocked.
Yeah. Yeah, it's covered.
It's covered?
Yeah.
That's strange. And it's not covered from here, so I don't know. Okay, let's use the normal Bhagavatam.
So maybe you may use the screen at your end, and then we'll see. We'll put it up here.
Okay. Yeah, I can use my screen on my hand.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll read the Sanskrit text once again. Saeva Godanam Lakshmyane Ketam Sita Govrisham Charayananu Gangopam Ranadvenarira Mahat. Word for word translation. Sa, Lord Krishna, Eva, certainly. Godanam, the treasure of cows. Lakshmyaha, by opulence. Neketam, reservoir. Sitago Vrisham, beautiful cows and bulls. Charayan, herden. Anugahan, the followers. Gopan, cowboys. Ranat, blowing. Venu, flute. Ariramat, enlivening. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Labai Charanaravinda Bhakti Viranta Swami. Patita Pravanjaga Guru Shukra Dvoshila Prabhupada. Yeah. While having the very beautiful bulls, the Lord, who was the reservoir of all opulence and fortune, used to blow his flute, and thus he enlivened his faithful followers, the cowherd boy. Purport by His Divine Grace, Prabhupada. As he grew to 6 and 7 years old, the Lord was given charge of looking after the cows and bulls in the grazing grounds. He was the son of a well-to-do landholder who owned hundreds and thousands of cows. And according to Vedic economics, one is considered to be a rich man by the strength of his stock of grains and cows. With only these two things, cows and grains, humanity can solve its eating problem. Human society needs only sufficient grain and sufficient cows to solve its economic problems. All other things but these two are artificial necessities created by man to kill his valuable life at the human level and waste his time in things which are not needed. Lord Krishna, as the teacher of the human society, personally showed by his acts that the mercantile community or the Vaishyas should herd cows and bulls and thus give protection to the valuable animals. According to the Smriti regulation, the cow is the mother and the bull the father of the human being. The cow is the mother because just as one sucks the breast of one's mother, human society takes cow's milk. Similarly, the bull is the father of human society because the father earns from the children just as the bull tills the ground to produce food grains. Human society will kill its spirit of life by killing the father and the mother. It is mentioned herein that the beautiful cows and bulls were of various checkered colors: red, black, green, yellow, ash, etc. And because of their colors and every smiling features, the atmosphere was enlivening. Over and above all, the Lord used to play his celebrated flute. The sound vibrated by his flute would give his friend such transcendental pleasure that they will forget all the talks of Brahmananda, which is so praised by the impersonalists. These cowherd boys, as will be explained by Sukadev Goswami, were living entities who had accumulated heaps of pious acts and thus were enjoying with the Lord in person, and we are hearing his transcendental flute. The Brahman Samhita 530 confirms the Lord's blowing his transcendental flute. Venu Kwanam Tamaravindam Dala Ayataksham Bhavatam Sam Asitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Pakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Brahmaji said, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who plays on his transcendental flute. His eyes are like lotus flowers. He is decorated with peacock plumes, and his bodily color resembles a fresh black cloud. Although his body, the features, are more beautiful than millions of cupids, these are the special features of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Umagyanam Timirandasya Gana Gyana Shalakaya Shaksho Militam Jena Tasmae Shri Gurave Nama Shri Shaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Swam Padantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganam Raghunatam Vitam Tamsa Ajivam Sarvitam Sagaditam Parijanam Saita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padakat Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishaka Vitam Shah Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kakanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourange Radhe Vindavaneshwari Brishabhanu Shutede Namani Nari Priye Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Lagayate Girim Yakripata Bande Shri Guru Dinatarina Vanchakarpata Ruvyas Chakripa Sunduvyas Evasha Svavitanam Pavatne Devashnave Namo Nama Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Srinivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. While adding the very beautiful books, the Lord who was the reservoir of all opulence and fortune used to blow his flute, and thus he enlivened his faithful followers, the cowherd boys. Hare Krishna. So before starting to speak on the Srimad Bhagavatam, we offer respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, Narayan Rishi, foremost human beings, to goddess of learning, Mother Sarasvati, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We offer the respect obeisances unto all the Parampara Acharyas, who by their mercy were sitting to discuss, to talk, to hear the transcendental vibration of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We offer our respectful obeisances unto all the devotees who have gathered on this platform today, who are listening to Srimad Bhagavatam by the mercy of the Jagat Guru, Param Guru Srila Prabhupada. We pray that at the end of this, may our devotional service endeavor get a lift forward closer to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So today we're continuing our reading from the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, describing the pastimes of the Lord, remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this particular text we're reading is talking about the Lord giving something that is very unique. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, he spoke about three things why he comes to this world. And those three basic reason why the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes to this world is encapsulated in this very particular verse. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Parityana yam sadhuna, vinasaya dukskritam damasam stapadayam yam, sambhavami juge juge. To annihilate the miscreants, to give pleasure to the devotees, as well as to reestablish religious principles. Krishna says at that time, for that purpose, I descended into this material world. And that three purposes is here explained. The first point is that Krishna comes, he gives pleasure to the devotees. In this verse, we hear how Krishna is giving pleasure to his devotees by blowing his transcendental flute. Thank you, Vasari. We also see that Krishna is giving punishment to those who are miscreants, and as well as established religious principles or the part of Dharma, or what is expected of the living entities in the material world. So in this text, we'll be focusing on 4 points, basically, which is the tone of what Srila Prabhupada gave to us in the purport. From the beginning of the purport, Srila Prabhupada identified the ideal human life, how it is dependent on Varna and Ashram. Prabhupada went further to explain to us, which is the second point, that Krishna is the teacher of Varnashram Dharma. He himself, he teaches, which is one of the reasons he comes. And thirdly, Prabhupada made us understand that the result of living in line with Krishna arrangement through Varnashram Dharma is the goal of human life. And fourth, we'll be talking about devotional service as the answer to all human challenges. In the material world, every living entity comes into this world with confusion. So we see today that the whole world is suffering as a result of illusion caused by the contact with the three modes of material nature. And as a result, they are bewildered about what is to be done and what is not to be done. So that is why Srila Prabhupada focused on this in the purport of this verse. Prabhupada focus was explaining to us in the beginning of the verse that how Krishna, as tender as the age of 6 and 7, he was exemplifying what is the duty of an ideal human being. As the son of a landholder, he was doing the primary duty, what is expected of an ideal human being. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, chapter 2, text number 13, this ideal human life is emphasized when Shukadeva Goswami says, Atapumbi dvija stresta vanashrama vibhagasa swanustitasya dharmasya samsiddhi aritoshana. That, O best among twice born, he was talking to Parishi. It is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste division and orders of life is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the goal of human life. Samsiddhi aritoshana. Samsiddhi means perfection. So the perfection of human life is that it pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But for those who are engrossed in this conditional life of repeated birth and death, the path that is shown out for them is this part of Varna and Ashram. So in the purport, Prabhupada was emphasizing that a human being does not need so many things to sustain itself. And Prabhupada emphasized how in the purport. Prabhupada talked about the importance of only 2 things, cows and grains, as the most important necessity required by man to sustain his livelihood. According to United Nations, in a world that is populated over 8 billion people. We see that the United Nations, according to the a statistics given in 1922 and updated in 2024, it is said that over 4.4 billion out of the 8 billion people living on Earth are experiencing severe food insecurity. An additional 900 people are faced with severe, most intense severe food insecurity, meaning that over 3.1 billion people would not afford an healthy diet. This is the statistics given by United Nations. And when you look at the statistics mathematically, when you look at 8 billion people on Earth, and 3.1 out of them, we're not talking of those who can at least eat 1 or 2 meals, those who are having acute severe food insecurity. In other words, those who cannot feed themselves. 3.1 billion. This is the most unfortunate situation, the manifestation of the foolishness of the people of this age. The living entity in material world has been endowed with everything that is required to survive. But because of his misguided life, the living entity has pushed himself away due to the dark, dense age of Kali and covering. He has forgotten completely what is the path. The path given by Krishna, this Vana and Ashram, is the systemic way whereby the one is life is guided by this Vana and Ashram. And Lord Krishna is exemplifying that. And Prabhupada is emphasizing that the real ideal life requires only these 2 things. In the Vishnu Purana, the same statement is confirmed that for human society to be peaceful, to be sustained, to be healthy, to be free of challenge, it is stated in the Vishnu Purana that, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quoted that in the Charitamrita Madhya Lila, where 858, where it says that Vanashrama Charavata Purushena Parapuma Vishnu Aradhyate Panta Nayat Tato Shakaranam, that the Supreme Personality of God, the Lord Vishnu, is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Vana and Ashram. There is no other way to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One must be situated in the institution of the 4 Vana and Ashram. And the word used there is one must. One must situate himself in the Vana and Ashram. Without this, there is no pleasing the Supreme Lord. And of course, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not pleased, how can their living entity become pleased? It is impossible for the living entity to become pleased. What they face, what they go through, what they experience is this experience that we're seeing in today's world. Thank you, Sir. This is what the living entities are meant to experience because of deviation from the instructions as given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has given this, that the path to becoming self-sufficient, peaceful, happy in life is to please the Supreme Personality of God. And the way to please the Supreme Personality of God in the conditional state of life is to follow this Vana and Ashram as given by the Supreme Personality of God. The Supreme Personality, he emphasizes that again in the Bhagavad Gita, and he said that the 4 social order and spiritual order of life is created by me. And the purpose is that it guides the human life in such a way that the living entity can live a life that is free from unnecessary distraction. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th chapter, text number 31, 7th canto, 5th chapter, text number 31, there is a full description of the modern man's situation. Nate vidu swata gatim I Vishnu, dura saya ye bahi ata manina, anda yanta, andai upali yamanas, te pisha tatriyam, uru damni badaha. The persons who are strongly entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying material life and who have therefore accepted as their leader or guru a similar blind man attached to the external sense object cannot understand that the goal of life is to return home, back to God, and engage in the service of the Lord, Vishnu. As blind men guided by another blind man miss the right path and fall into the ditch, materially attached men led by another materially attached man are bound by the ropes of fruitive labor, which are made of very strong cords, and they continue again and again in materialistic life, suffering the threefold miseries. This is the fate of modern man. The modern man is faced with this situation described in this verse because of their following the leaders of modern day leaders who themselves are blind, who are shatter the goal of life. When you see the modern life system, the educational system, the day-to-day life system, the activities of livelihood in the modern times is all geared towards sense gratification. And because of this consciousness of enjoying to the fullest, they deviate from what Prabhupada is explaining in the purport. They leave what is necessity. The necessity of human life is only sustained by the availability of the cow and the bull. Prabhupada explained. And Lord Krishna, who is the perfect teacher, is himself is teaching the part of education. He is himself is taking his Gopal friends who are example of a perfect part and parcel of the Lord. Every Jiva Atma, different living entity, irrespective of their position, from the highest planet to the lowest, are all fragmented part and parcel of the Lord. And because they are part and parcel of the Lord, their nature is that they are supposed to enjoy with the Lord. And to enjoy with the Lord gives them opportunity. But one who has become infected by the virus of the three folds of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, we come into this material world. The Lord, being compassionate, being the all-loving Father of the living entities, he went after the living entity, and he gives the path, and he himself, he comes and he plays that lifestyle. He lives like that life that is exemplifying. It shows man that this is how to live. We never hear in this history, the story of the Bhagavatam or Krishna Lila, that the residents of Vrindavan are at any time suffering as a result of lack of hunger. The world is suffering. All of the problems that the world is going through today. Well, let us take it from the environmental challenges. There is so many. Recently, just last week, a whole state was overrun by the flood in Nigeria. And this is not just synonymous to Nigeria. A whole state. And the government is hiding the actual number because it is obvious that it is said that over 23,000 houses were submerged under the flood. And they are coming with a figure of 213 people missing. But the reality is that because, of course, in a country like Nigeria, there is no statistics. So they can't lay their hands onto the amount of damage that has been caused as a result of what? Artificial. Sometimes ago, in Dubai, we had, because of artificial insemination of rain, then the whole place was flooded, covered in flood. The world is suffering as a result of climate change. There are so many diseases. One of the number one diseases that kills like anything in today's world is what is called cancer of different grades. Prostate cancer, stomach cancer, throat cancer, and all of this. By analytical study of all of these diseases, the scientists themselves have confirmed that they are all as a result of what is consumed by man. So the human society globally are suffering like anything, from insecurity of food to the insecurity of human. In today's newspaper, we just saw in some part of Lagos, it is unbelievable. It is something that cannot be heard of. A gory picture was put on the news this morning. A 13-year-old boy lured a 4-year-old boy to an uncompleted building, strangle him, slaughter his throat, and remove his kidney, his genital, and some organs of his body. to sell for just 50,000 naira, which is less than $50. $50 is even too much. Less than $30. A 13-year-old boy committing such an heinous for the what? Because the whole world attention is focused on money. Because the anticipation is that by acquiring so much money, then all kinds of enjoyment can be achieved. The whole focus of human life has been deviated from what? Aritoshana, attaining the lotus feet of love, which is the ultimate goal of human life. As stated by Shukadev Goswami in the verse quoted earlier, the ultimate goal of human life is to attain. And if this is the purpose, then all of this madness over money, according to recent research, there was a time in the world when the madness started. It was cowrie that was the legal tender. After some time, it became gold. It became a legal tender. And after some time, it became a paper money. And it is said that in the next 15 to 20 years, we will no longer have paper money. We will only be doing what? Electronic money. And for this, if you cannot imagine the number of lives that has been lost already, and many other lives that is going to be lost. Putting man in a repeated, consistent ocean of samsara, repeated birth and death. This is the madness that is going on in the world today. This is the situation of the misguided civilization that we have. And this is not surprising because Srimad Bhagavatam told us in the 12th canto, in this age of Kali, this is where the direction that everybody will go to. That money will become the goal of life. And because money will become the goal of life, the human society will be so misguided to the extent that they will eat themselves. And the sage, Srila Vyasadeva, was so compassionate. He saw these things, they are going to manifest. And for that purpose, he gave the solution ahead of time. The Srimad Bhagavatam and all the scriptures, according to the very scriptures, he said, 5,000 years ago, it was put into writing. 5,000 years warning is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srila Vyasadeva, after writing the 4 Vedas, he read the supplementary scripture, the Srimad Bhagavatam. And when he saw that the people in Kali Yuga, they will all be women, there will not be longer any man. Because the symptom of a man is that what? He's intelligent. So for that purpose, because of the less intelligent nature of the conditions in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, chapter 4, text number 25, Srila Vyasadeva, out of compassion for the men of this, misguided men of this civilization, he wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam. Stri Sudra Dvija Bandunam Trayina Suti Goshara Karma Sreya Si Mudanam Sreya Ivan Babet Iha Iti Bharatam Akyanam Pipaya Muninam Kritaham. That out of compassion, the great sage Srila Vyasadeva, he thought it wise that this will enable men to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Thus, he compiled the historical narration called the Mahabharata for women, laborers, and friends of the twice born. This is the purpose why Srila Vyasadeva, he wrote this Mahabharata. And inside the Mahabharata, he gave the Bhagavad Gita. So the Lord has made a sumptuous, necessary availability of what is required for man. Everything is given to save him from this darkness. It is said that one can mistakenly fall when there is darkness, where there is no light. When one falls down, it is understandable. It can be excused, because there is darkness, but there is the light. Srila Vyasadeva, the Lord himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here we see Vidura is hearing is sharing the narration of the pastimes of the Lord. Which is the purpose? What purpose? The purpose of this Lord's pastime is to remind that why the Lord comes here. He has given all of this direction. He has given all of this. And he knows this is what is going to happen. And he consistently, just like when an intelligent man builds a house, he pulls light instant there. He knows that when the sun goes down, there will be, because what we call the eye, actually man doesn't really realize that what he carries as the eye, which he is very proud of, that he is using to see, is actually a toy, which is dependent on other objects. Everybody is so proud, I have a eye, I can see. But let the sun goes away without the artificial light, whether he will see anything. He cannot. He is completely blind. And it's so amazing. We see our children, we buy a toy baby for the child, and our children, they carry the baby, and they are so joyful. They are carrying baby, and we laugh at them. We buy a toy car, and the young boy, 1 year old, 2 year old, is pulling the toy car and is deriving a pleasure. And as an adult, we are laughing at them. But this is the foolishness of ourselves, because actually we are worse than the children. Because whatever we think that we have actually is actually not what we think we have. We think we can see, but this seeing capability of ours is dependent on Surya. If the Surya withdraws by the mercy of the Lord, we see nothing. And man, just to substantiate, he creates artificial light. So modern man's civilization is so unfortunate that he has removed what natural. And Krishna, being the perfect teacher, as Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, is creating all of these leelas. It is not for anything. He is creating all of these pastimes. It's all these narrations that we are hearing. Krishna is reminding us that the ultimate duty, unless one puts himself under this Vedic arrangement by the Lord in the form of Vana and Ashram, life will be unpleasant. So Srila Prabhupada, when he came to the West, he revived this and he said, I have given you everything. But what is the beauty? The beauty is that Lord Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he has made everything so easy. Vana and Ashram, although some misguided persons, they try to create the caste system. But when we're talking about Vana and Ashram, we're not talking about the caste system of India. We're talking about the Devi Vanashram. And this Devi Vanashram is classless. Because one of the confusion about Vana and Ashram is that sometimes, because of the nature of the condition, of the ignorance of the conditions in this age, they're so misguided. So Lord Krishna said, we should follow the Devi Vana Ashram. The Devi Vana Ashram is classless, it has nothing to do. And in chapter 9 of Bhagavad Gita, text number 32, Lord Krishna is said, Man I parta vyapasritya, yebi siu papa yonaya. Striyo Vaisyas Tata Sudra, Tepi Yanti Param Gatim. O son of Partha, those who take shelter in me, although they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, Sudras, workers, can attain the supreme destination. Bhagavad Gita 9:32. This is what Krishna says. So in this Vana and Ashram we're talking about, it's not the caste system that I am a Brahmana. That is what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. Nadanam Najanam Na Sundarim. Kavitam Jagad is like Mama Jamani Shori. Bavatat Bad. I had to keep right. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave everything so simple in this age. And he said, this Vanashram, which is given according to the very scriptures, is very difficult. Modern man is so confused, is so grossly engrossed that he cannot even follow this simple gift of the Lord. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, follow this process of bhakti. This process of bhakti, you should follow it. This is this process of bhakti. Whether you are a Brahmana, you are a Kshatriya, you are a Vaishya, it does not matter. Just engage everything in my service. And Narada Muni, he beautified that when he was giving instructions to the Prasetas in the Srimad Bhagavatam 4th canto, chapter 31. When Narada Muni was instructing the Prasetas, he gave a very beautiful statement. 4th canto, chapter 31, text number 14. Yatataro mula nise sanena tripiantitat kanda bujopa saka pranopa aracha yatendriya anam tataiva sarva anam ashute eja. As pouring water on the root of a tree energizes the trunk, branches, twigs, and everything else, and as supplying food to the stomach enlivens the senses and lives of the body, simply by worshiping the Supreme Personality of God through devotional service, automatically satisfies the demigods who are part of the Supreme Personality of God. This is the beauty. So Lord Krishna, he gave the Vana and Ashram. He said, this is the path. But in this age, he knows how foolish we are. So he said, okay, just take to this process of devotional service. Just surrender unto me. Just follow my path. In this process of devotional service, which Lord Srisha Mahaprabhu has given. And Srila Prabhupada mercifully came to the West and he gave it to us. So as we hear this narration, this is what is supposed to be registering in our mind. By watering the root of the, by watering the root, all part of the body of the plant is exemplified. And there's a nice story in the Mahabharata. How just by becoming a devotee of the Lord, one can satisfy everything. We all know the character Duryodhana. Duryodhana in the Mahabharata was a powerful character. And we know his arch enemy was the Pandavas. Duryodhana is always, from day to day, all of his life, his only goal, although the Bhagavatam says the goal of life is to what? To submit, to serve the Supreme Personality of God. But Duryodhana took his goal of life to be the enemy of the Pandavas. So he's always acting one way or the other way to make sure that he disturbs the Pandavas. But because the Pandavas are devotees of the Lord, they are never. So there is a story in the Mahabharata. So one time, after trying so many things, Duryodhana was thinking, what else can I do to make these people so miserable? So he thought of what to do. Since I cannot do anything, whatever Duryodhana has done, he has failed in being able to put disturbance to the Pandavas. So Duryodhana said, okay, I'll do something. He thought of what he can do. Who can he employ to do something that will make sure that the Pandavas are put into distress? Who are perfection of the devotees of the Lord. So Duryodhana hatched a plan, and he said, there is this sage, Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni is very noted to be very passionate. It is very susceptible to anger, and whoever commits a slightest of mistake before him is cursed. And such a powerful sage, he said, if the Pandavas somehow or the other are able to offend him, then their life become miserable. Then I will be able to enjoy all the wealth of the Pandavas. So he had a plan. So he went to, this is how demoniac persons can be. So Duryodhana, he went to Durvasa Muni and he started serving him nicely. He offered him everything that anyone could offer in a menial servant. And he was doing everything perfectly to please Durvasa Muni. And after serving Durvasa Muni for so long a time, Durvasa Muni, of course, naturally became so satisfied that this person that is serving me so nicely, he must be desiring something. Let me give him the benediction. So he asked Duryodhana, my dear Duryodhana, you served me so nicely, and I'm so pleased with you. Ask me for a benediction. You must have something you are desiring. Tell me. I will bless you. And because Duryodhana, he knows that, he cannot come straightforwardly to achieve his goal. So he told Durvasa Muni, my dear Durvasa Muni, sir, thank you so much, sir. I'm happy that I've been able to please you. But that benediction you want to give me, please wait. I'll ask it when the need arises. For now, I'm just satisfied that I'm serving you. This is the nature of a cunning man. And he told Durvasa Muni, please, sir, let me ask that when the time arises, when there is a need. But for now, I'm satisfied that you are satisfied and pleased with me. So then he went to the second stage of his planning and he started manipulating. What is the manipulation? He sent spies to be monitoring the Pandavas. The Pandavas are in the forest. He is not satisfied. And he said they should go and monitor the Pandavas. and he was watching and monitoring Dhruva Samuni's movement. At the same time, and Dhruva Samuni has over 500 disciples always following him every time. The nature of the Kshatriya is that he cannot afford not to host his guests. So Duryodhana hatched a plan that whenever the Pandavas have just finished eating any of their meal, whether breakfast or lunch or dinner, he will send Dhruva Samuni there when they don't have anything, because they are living in the forest, they're not living in the palace. So he knows that their constraint is there. So on this particular day, Duryodhana hatched this plan. He monitored the Pandavas. He realized that they had just finished eating their lunch and they were about to take rest. The wife of the Pandavas, she has just finished washing the pots and plates after eating. This is the nature of the Vaishnavas. You don't keep plates. And immediately he called Dhruva Samuni. He said, my dear sir, you told me the other time you want to give me a benediction. You know, I like the Pandavas so much. They are suffering in the forest. And they are my family members. This is nature of a tricky, cunning man. He said, please, I want you to visit them. You know, the visit of a holy man to the Grihastha, to the householders is a very wonderful thing. I want you to visit them. Although he has a very evil intention, say, please, go to them, and I want you to go to them now. They are suffering so much there. I want you to go and give them their blessings. And because Dhruva Samuni has promised, he cannot take back his promise. So he went to the ashram of the Pandavas. And when he got there, behold, has been monitored and planned. They've just finished their lunch and they were about taking rest. And Dhruva Samuni came in there with all of his disciples, over 500 disciples. In the forest, there is no store of keeping any food. And that became a big anxiety to the Pandavas. What are we going to do now? How will you get a food to feed one person, not to talk of Dhruva Samuni and all of his multitude of disciples? They became very confused about what to do next. But because the Lord has said, Lord Krishna has said that my devotees will never be vanquished. Lord Krishna is seeing everything that is happening. So at that moment, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, appeared there. And they told the Pandavas, why are you so confused? It is natural for the yogi to take his ablution before he eats. So please tell the Dhruva Samuni and his disciple to go to the riverbank and take their bath. And when they come back, they will have their food ready. The Pandavas were looking at Krishna. What is Krishna talking about? We don't even have anything. But because they know Krishna, they have trust in Krishna. The nature of devotee is that he is always faithful in the Lord. He knows that whatever the Lord says is always the best for him. So the Pandavas followed the instructions of Krishna. And they said, okay, Dhruva Samuni, sir, please, can you go take your bath with your disciples? And when you finish, you come back. Come and take your meal. We'll finish preparing your lunch. And the Dhruva Samuni followed that instructions and went. And the Pandavas asked Krishna, so what do? We don't have any stock of food here. We're in the forest. We have finished whatever little things we have. We are finished. And this brings about one other important aspect of bhakti. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that those who eat food not offered to the Lord, they are simply eating sin. And food offered to him, the Lord, is satisfying the Supreme Personality of God. So Krishna told the Pandavas and Draupadi, he said, you have cooked for your husbands. Don't you have anything remnant left? He said, no, I don't have anything. He said, in fact, I've washed the pots. He said, okay, go and check the pot. Maybe in the pot, you know, sometimes when you wash pots, sometimes some grains or some vegetable will stick that will not go out. He said, no, I'm the one that washed. I've washed them clean. Krishna said, hey, Draupadi, just go and check. And Draupadi went. And when she went there, and because Krishna was insisting, she looked carefully, and truly she found that there was a little grain of vegetable stick to the edge of the pot. And he came back to Krishna, oh, Partha, there is only some little vegetable that is stick there. But what can we do with this? Krishna said, give it to me. And Krishna took that. And the moment Krishna took, referencing the quotation of Narada Muni instruction to the Pracetas, that by pouring water on the root of a tree energizes the trunk, the branches, twigs, and everything else. By supplying food to the stomach, enlivening the senses and the limbs of the body, simply by worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through devotional service, automatically satisfy the demigods. And every living entity, Krishna says, Mama Ivamso Jiva Luke Jiva Buddha are part and parcel of Krishna. So as Krishna took that offering of a little vegetable and became satisfied, because it is an offering from his devotees, Durvasamuni and his disciples, who were bathing in the bank of the river, became automatically satisfied. And they just realized that their stomach is so full, and they're wondering, how can we go back to Drupadi? She must have cooked. And we go there now, we don't even have a space to breathe. How then can we even eat anything? Hey, we are in trouble now. In order to avoid Drupadi's course, it is better we just run away from here. And Dhruvasamuni told his disciples, let us just run away, because we can't even, what excuse are we going to give? She has suffered so much to cook for all of us, and then we go there, we can say, there is no how we can show our face. So Dhruvasamuni and his disciples ran away. And what happened? Automatically, the Pandavas were saved. So by devotional service, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, one who takes to this process of devotional service, which is the perfection of Varna and Ashram, then the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased. And when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased, all forms of life, in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 1065, Krishna specifically emphasizes, that always you think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without will. I promise you this, because you are my dear friend Arjuna. And Krishna is offering that friendship to each and every one of us. He's offering that friendship to each and every part and parcel of this. Only what we need to do, just offer obeisances to Krishna. Just worship him. The essence of all of these stories, then we'll be able to experience what we are hearing. Prabhupada is taking in the second part of the purport. It is mentioned that over and above all, the Lord used to play his celebrated flute. The sound vibrated by his flute will give his friends such transcendental pleasure that they will forget all thoughts of Brahmananda. Brahmananda will become something like a water in the hoof of a calf, which the impersonalist so praised so highly. The cowherd was, as will be explained by Sukadev Goswami, were living entities who have accumulated pious activities. So just like the Gopals, they become so pleasured by just hearing the flute of Krishna. When we accept this offering of Krishna's friendship, we also become what? Satisfied and blissful. Then we can hear the flute of Krishna. And whoever hears the flute of Krishna can never like anything. How can he like anything? Because that flute that is coming from Krishna is Krishna himself. And because Krishna is what? As Lord Brahma told us, Satchid Ananda Vigraha. Krishna is full of knowledge, bliss, and eternality. We also experience that to the fullest, and our life becomes blissful. That is the ultimate goal. So when we hear these pastimes of the Lord, when we hear these narrations, when we hear these pastimes of the Lord, Brahmaji is telling us this Venu of Krishna, the flute of Krishna, we can also become like Brahma, and we can recite Venum Konantam Arabindam Dala Ayatasham. Then we will be able to recite with feelings, with emotions, and we will experience that bliss, that pleasure that is beyond descriptions. That the bliss of Brahmananda will become insignificant to the pleasure in devotional service. And the beauty of devotional service is that it is not limited by time. It is not that because 5,000 years ago, Krishna was physically present. Krishna is physically present, manifests himself in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that is why the message we have had. And so here, in this conversation, we're hearing these pastimes of the Lord. And it's bringing us into that mood where we can remember these pastimes of the Lord and we can absorb ourselves fully in this transcendental loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what is the end result of all of this hearing? When we hear this pastime appropriately, then what will naturally happen is that we'll be able to chant the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then by pleasing the Lord, by chanting this holy name, which is the Yuga Dharma, which is the ultimate goal of life in this age, they will attain the shelter, the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then after this life, this very lifetime that we are in, we'll enter into Goloka Vrindavan and enjoy that lifestyle that the Gopas are described here, enjoying with Krishna in the as cowherd boy in the grooves of the Vrindavan. Hare Krishna. So I'll stop here and then open up for questions and answers, comments, contributions. So summarily, Krishna, I'll repeat the verse once again. The verse says that while heading the very beautiful bulls, the Lord, who was the reservoir of all opulences and fortune, used to blow his flute, and thus he enlivened his faithful followers, the cowherd boys. Hare Krishna. And we've actually summarily state that based on the purport of Srila Prabhupada, 4 points were derived. That ideal human life is dependent on Varna and Ashram. And that Krishna is the supreme teacher who teaches that Varna and Ashram by exemplifying it here in the verse that we're reading. And then when we read, the result of living in line with this Krishna's arrangement through Varna and Ashram is that we become a devotee of the Lord. And then when we become a devotee of the Lord, the Lord service answered all human, is the answer, is the solution to all human challenges. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, His Grace SALIKA Prabhu, for such wonderful Krishna Katha. Dear devotees, please, anyone with questions, comments, realizations, you may indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask your question, speak. Anadi Nidanam Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Anadi Nidanam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, Dandavat.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat.
Thank you, Prabhu SALIKA, for the wonderful narrations. So, Prabhu, I have 2 questions. One, His Holiness Bhakti Damodara Swami said, philosophy alone does not change the heart of a demonic person unless it's backed by character. And we see this in the life of Krishna himself, our Jagat Guru, Srila Prabhupada, and Param Gurus. So, why is it that after we come across this philosophy, we are speaking it day in, day out? I'm talking of this Varnashram system. But yet, we fail to implement it. Hare Krishna, this is my first question.
Thank you very much for this beautiful question. And a quote from His Holiness Bhakti Damodara Swami. Why is it that we are not? The reason is because I'll give several examples and I'll summarize it. In the conversation between Maharaj Parishit and Shukadev Goswami, in the 12th canto, third chapter, text number 51, Shukadev Goswami asked, when you check the previous verse to that in text number 15, or if we go back a little bit, Maharaj Parishit was asking several questions. he was talking about different processes of worship, why men are not being purified in that conversation in chapter 3. And Maharaj Parishit, Sukadev Goswami, he gave a vivid answer in the text number 51. He says, Kalau doshani de rajan, after he eko mahaguna, Kirtanad eva Krishnasya, Mukta Sangat, Paramvra Jet. Thank you. This Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults. But yet, there is still one good quality about this age. Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one can become free from material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental kingdom. Thank you, Sadi, for bringing that. The reason we are not able to be able to live what we are reading, we are hearing every day, is because of our lack of chanting the holy name of the Lord. And the question will be, but we have been chanting Hare Krishna for 10 years, for 15 years, for 20 years. No, we're not chanting Hare Krishna. Because Srila Rupa Goswami says that just one pronunciation of Krishna, one immediately in the 5 characteristics of devotional service, immediately, all auspiciousness, you mentioned character, the character that manifests in a person who chants the holy name of the Lord. One.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. This is our speaker's video froze. So we'll check to see if we'll get it correct. All right. I think SALIKA Prabhu had a problem, but he is trying to reconnect. Okay.
Hey, Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
Prabhuji, yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, material energy is
exhibiting
its quality.
Yeah, so
I don't know what happened. I just so I was explaining, as I was explaining, and I didn't need an Prabhu.
Yeah.
So But we'll say that we are chanting. We are calling the names every day. For chanting to occur, three things must come together: the tongue, the head, and the heart. That is why Prahlad Maharaj tells us, Sravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. When our chanting with our tongue connects with our intelligence, that is, and our heart, when we chant, then Krishna will manifest in the holy name. But the reality is this, that until we are able to do that, the transcendental qualities of bhakti will never manifest in anyone. But then another question would be that, but then the holy name is said to be Shintamani. Yes, because our chanting is filled with desire for material gains, for fame, from all kinds of material things. The holy name, because it's Shintamani, will give us that result of that. In other words, we will get some benediction, we get some punya, we get some piety. But the holy name of the Lord, when it's chanted purely, that is why it is said that no good qualities can find in one who is not a devotee of the Lord. So the chanting of the holy name of the Lord bestow all of the qualities that one can imagine that is stated in the scriptures. But when one is chanting in the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada analyzed this. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, in the chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita, in the Shatosloki, verse 10, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, he explains why sometimes somebody is seemingly chanting, but the quality of a bhakta is not manifesting in. In that purport, Srila Prabhupada said that when a person knows the goal of life, he knows that Krishna, the holy name of Krishna is supposed to give one Krishna, but is addicted to fruitive activities. In second to the last paragraph, he said he's acting in karma yoga. When he knows that the goal of Krishna is Krishna, but he takes pleasure in mental speculation to understand Krishna, he's acting in jnana yoga. And when he knows the goal and seeks Krishna completely, in Krishna consciousness, devotional service, he is acting in bhakti yoga or buddhi yoga, which is the complete yoga. The complete yoga is the highest perfectional stage of yoga. Thank you very much for highlighting the strategy for good. So this is the reason why sometimes you see that somebody seemingly is chanting, but his chanting will not produce bhakti because of his desire. So he will get some punya, and that is why Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yesham tu atta gata papam, gena man punya karabana, te dwandwa vinimurta, bhajanti ma dedavrata. By rendering service to the pure devotees, by doing some auspicious thing, taking part in chanting, even though it's not purely, but for the purpose of material gains, one accumulates piety. And when one becomes addicted to doing this, by dint of good fortune, one day you will get the double mercy of Guru and Krishna. Then you can be able to chant the holy name. And that is why we're told that one should constantly, one who wants to be a devotee of the Lord, must constantly plead to the spiritual master that he should please give one the grace so that one can chant the holy name of the Lord. And that is why before starting our japa in the morning, it is recommended that we should say prayers, because by our endeavor to chant alone, we cannot. Because in our present state of conditional life, of influence of the three modes of material nature, we cannot attract, we cannot pronounce the name of Krishna. So a devotee will pray to the Lord before trying to chant, "Oh dear Guru, O servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, bless me that I may be able to chant the holy name of the Lord." And when one continuously pray like this, one day, by the double mercy of Guru and Krishna, you will be able to recite the holy name, and all the good qualities that is beyond that of the demigods will manifest in such a personality. I hope it answers your curiosity.
Well, not fully, but I will.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have doubts. Please share the doubts so that we all can learn from it.
Yeah, the reason being that I know that even
Which
Nama
area
Apara
is still
I know
not
that
clear?
Nama Apara can even achieve results. So if I've not been able to chant well, for that matter, I'm assuming that that is me, but other devotees might be doing so. So, but to me, what I'm trying to understand here, generally, that means we are all not chanting well. That is what I'm deducing from what you are saying. That is where, even though you came across this philosophy, but yet we are unable to live by it. That is what I'm trying to deduce from what you are saying. If truly speaking, I don't know.
Because one is not chanting, it is difficult to understand who is chanting. If you want to know those who are chanting, you yourself have to strive to become a chanter of the holy name. Only a chanter of the holy name can understand and know who is chanting. So the best solution, the best way to know who actually is chanting the holy name is one, the level of your chanting will reveal the chanting of other persons to you. So in a conditional state, one is not able to be able to determine who chants or who does not chant the holy name because himself is not chanting. Only a chanter of the holy name can identify the other person who is chanting the holy name.
Okay,
So therefore, to be able to see who is chanting, it is recommended that one should himself try to become a chanter of the holy name of the Lord. Can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu, I can hear you loud and clear.
Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Yes. I think he's having issues with his connection again.
Sure.
Yes, terrible.
Salika Prabhu, we can hear you. You might have to stop your video. Anadine Nana Prabhu, thank you for the question because I also had a question similar to what you asked. And even though Salika Prabhu is helping you, of course, us all with your question, there are still lots of questions to be answered. One, it is said that we read from, okay, I think Salika Prabhu is back. From this three.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah, from this 329, I'm just trying to add to Anadine Prabhu's question because I had a similar question. We're reading from this verse that Krishna plays his flute and he enlivens each and every one. And Krishna is always with his flute. But when Krishna was coming as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he did not come with his flute physically, but he came with the flute at the same time in the form of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra is not different from Krishna's flute. And we know Mother Yamuna hears Krishna's flute and she stops to flow. The animals, they hear the flute and they stop to graze. Lord Chaitanya did the same thing when Lord Chaitanya chanted Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Even wild animals were coming to him to dance with him. So I am thinking like the same as Anadidina Prabhu asked. I am here, Sahadev, I've chanted Hare Krishna Maha Mantra more than the entire lifespan of Lord Jesus Christ on earth. And I'm still here rotting. So why am I here rotting? So you are trying to explain that because my tongue, my head, and my heart are not connected. Why are they not connected? When I know that they have to be connected. This is the problem we are facing. SALIKA Prabhu, if you may help.
Yeah. It is interesting because in our present lifetime, we're counting 30, 40 years. But if Krishna becomes merciful unto us, and we can have a glimpse of how many millions of lifetimes we have spent in a degraded condition life, we will appreciate the level of advancement that we have made. Although it looks to us as though we have not made any advancements. But if I tell you, Sir Dave, that I have a nice buffet for you, and this is pork meat, please come and enjoy with me. I'm going to give you $10,000. Will you take it, Sir Dave?
No,
That money is such a big money.
I will not take it. I will not take it, but I don't think that will make me any special person because there are some people who do not chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and if you offered the same thing to them to eat, like specifically
immediately before you even finish offering. So that is the advancement. The advancement in Krishna consciousness is like the rising of the sun. It is not physically identified or seen by the chanter. But when we look back at our lives 40 years ago, 30 years ago, depending on our age or the time we've joined devotional service, and we look at our life presently now, we'll appreciate how much we have advanced in devotional service. The fact that we have not been able to chant purely like Rupa Goswami, like Sukadev Goswami, or like any other great personality, you will appreciate the fact that we have advanced so immensely. Our advancement is not significant to us now because we are looking at where we are going, but we are not looking at where we are coming from. It's just like a journey of 1,000 miles, and someone has reached 7,000 miles out of 10,000 miles. If he has no understanding of the calculation of the distance, he would think he has not started his journey. And that is exactly what our experience is now. So when we compare our life with what we were 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, and our lifetime 33 years. But when we look at the time we have spent in devotional service, and we look at what we used to be as at that time, and what we are susceptible to, what we would naturally do without thinking twice, and we look at what we don't do now, we realize how much we have advanced spiritually. Thank you, Sadi, for my understanding.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I know what's the name? Another Dinanam said he has two questions, but I think Shemara Prabhu probably has something to say in this regard. So Shemara,
Yes.
if you may unmute.
Yes. Maybe he has some contributions.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Krishna Prabhupada. All glory to the assembled devotees.
Yeah.
Okay, just a little. I mean, the question Anandini Dana Prabhu asked, there's a part of it which Salika Prabhu is not answering. That is, I don't know whether that is his answer to the question, but it's like it's omitting an important point. It's asking why are we not establishing the Varashram? I guess that is the crux of the question.
Yeah.
So of course, we know that there are debates for and against at present on ISKCON. But what I can say personally is that whatever truth Srila Prabhupada has established, whatever truth Srila Prabhupada has revealed to us will manifest with time. When Srila Prabhupada was in the US and at the beginning of his mission, some journalists asked him, so where are the temples you're talking about? Where, what do you think you can really make it? And Prabhupada said, that is only time that is separating me from them. There are temples all over, there are devotees all over. So concerning Vanashram, I also believe that when the time comes, it's a matter of time. Because if Krishna consciousness has to last for 10,000 years as predicted by Prabhupada, then Vanashram has to take place. Definitely. It cannot, Krishna consciousness cannot last 10,000 years without it taking the form of an ashram where people can live and practice it in a very homogeneous way. So my belief is that 50 years or 60 years of Krishna consciousness in the West is nothing compared to 10,000 years. So the 10,000 years Prabhupada has predicted will definitely be fulfilled, and within that time, Vanashram system will be established. That's my belief. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Sriman Varacharya Prabhu, for that contribution. Yeah. That aspect I didn't touch it because I know very well that the topic about Vanashram, there's a lot of controversies around the topic of, and I carefully just didn't want to go that direction because we have a Vanashram setting all over the world. It may not be as perfect as it is stated in the scriptures, and that also can be attributed to the fact that we are in an age of imperfection, and it will take certain time, as Brother Prabhu said, for us to be able to perfect it, because and they gave a very good example of Prabhupada 50 years ago or 60 years ago, and Prabhupada explanation of ISKCON 50 years ago and ISKCON of today are quite different, opposing things, and they are manifesting now. So yes, that is possible, but the reality is that where I'm trying to focus more on is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in real essence, threw Vana and Ashram outside when he was having his conversation with Ramananda Rai. That is not to say that we should not practice Vana and Ashram, but there is a limit to how much we can do in the terms of establishing Vana and Ashram in our present state, because we do not have that adhikar. Most of us that we are speaking here were born in an environment that some of us have spent 2, even 3 decades of our life before we come in contact with devotion and service. And to practice Vana and Ashram in a real proper sense of it, all of the samskaras of life one must pass through them. So it's a very detailed subject matter. And sometimes when people talk about Vana and Ashram, I say, well, for whatever we're able to achieve presently, we should be grateful to Krishna that is allowing us to achieve it, because when we look at what it takes to establish Varna and Ashram system, it's something that will take several lifetimes to achieve. Varna and Ashram, perfection of Varna and Ashram is not a one lifetime thing. Most especially for some of us who have only, that does not mean that Krishna consciousness or attainment of the goal of Krishna cannot be attained in one lifetime. And that is why Srila Prabhupada gave us the essence. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the essence. Irrespective of perfection of Varna and Ashram or not, one is qualified to go back to Godhead in this lifetime, irrespective of perfection or imperfection of Varna and Ashram. And that is where my direction of the class was going to. That Varna and Ashram, according to the Vedic standard, is the requirement for anyone to be able to attain ultimate goal of life. But in Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has breached, because he knows the the challenges that we're going to go through in Kali Yuga. So he for each and individual one of us, he has given us an express card, which is the process of bhakti through the Smaran Kirtanam, chanting and hearing the holy name and remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if we want to be perfect Varna and Ashram practitioner, we may not be able, based on our adhikar, be able to even achieve that in this lifetime. But we can attain the goal of bhakti in this very lifetime. Because Varna and Ashram requires that one must have gone through so many samskara, process of purification, to get perfection of samskara. Because samskara means, let us talk of the Varna and Ashram separately. The Varna, which is the Vaishyas, the Sudras, when you look at the qualifications that makes them, and that is why it is misunderstood by some part of the world where they created the caste system. And that is where they get confused, because they think that this can be developed just because of birth. But according to the Bhagavad Gita, Varna and Ashram, the qualification is based on qualification. And most of us coming into devotional service at the middle or the 1/3 or 3/4 of our lives may not be able to achieve the samskara required to practice a perfect Varna and Ashram system. But that is not to say that Varna and Ashram is not attainable, because it's the statement of the Lord. And like Prabhu puts it, I like the way he puts it. In this era of 10,000 golden years, the Varna and Ashram will become perfected. But our contribution to the development of that is what should be focusing on. What much can I contribute to achieving the goal of Varna and Ashram in ISKCON? But why simultaneously doing that, we should focus on the ultimate goal, which Krishna says, Ma'am, why I concluded the class on that point, that while we're thinking about Varna and Ashram, we should understand that through the process of devotion and service. So Varna and Ashram, we should try as much as possible. How many devotees in today's world are able to live a Brahmana life? They are carrying the thread of a Brahmana. A Brahmana should never beg, should never work for somebody. But more than 90% of our Brahmin devotees in ISKCON are working class. So does that mean that they are not qualified Brahmanas? No. So there is a between. When you look at the subject matter of Varna and Ashram, we should look at the systemic growth of development of the institution of Varna and Ashram, which Prabhu is talking about. It will come to reality. But our focus should be that, yes, Varna and Ashram is the process, but the ultimate goal is Krishna. And Krishna has given us the process of bhakti. So while we are in this ashram of Brahmana, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, whatever ashram that we are finding ourselves, or the Varna that we find ourselves, we should constantly think that in this age, men of this age are short-lived. We have short duration of life. We don't have all it takes to live the life of a Vana and Ashram person, but we can achieve the goal of Bhakti, which is to attain the lotus fruit of Krishna in this one lifetime. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yeah, I think Anadi Dana Prabhu.
Does that help?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Prabhu, thank you for the elaborate answer. So my second question has to do with
thank you very much.
Dhruva Samuni. When he went to the Pandavas in the forest and they went to take a bath, they said that they were satisfied as a result of that, as a result of Krishna taking the little grain from Draupadi. So, yeah, he refused to came back in order not for Draupadi to pronounce a curse. And it is said that the vessel that they were using in the forest was given by the sun god, by which if Draupadi ate, that means there will be no more food. So my question here is it always the case that the husband have to eat before the wife? And my second question also is what is the effect of a man denying to eat the food of a wife in this regard? Because Dhruva was afraid of the curse that Draupadi will pronounce. I don't know if my question here is clear.
Yes, I understand it. I can get it. I get it. She was scared because she knows that if Draupadi causes him, it will have an effect. So they ran away, right? And then also the question is the potency of a wife allowing the husband to eat first before the husband.
Yes, and also, is there any effect or is there any curse if a man deny eating the food of the wife also?
Thank you. Now, this is exactly something similar to your first question. According to the Vedic scriptures and the law of Manu, there are certain standards, requirements for Grihastha life. And those standards are not something that anyone can easily compromise and become happy. So according to the Vedic standard, a wife should never eat before the husband. But in PRABHU says that I'm not a Brahmana, I'm not a Shudra, because this is what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is trying to teach. Because although these things are there to guide us, that this is the standard. And that's why I explained earlier on that if we look at what we have achieved in the course of devotional service, we will be so appreciative of devotional service, gives a lot of advantage ahead of the rules and regulations of the Vana and Ashram, or the Vedic standard of Grihastha life, or Vana or Ashram. According to the Vana and Ashram, or the Vedic standard of Vana and Ashram, there are regulations and rules that you cannot, as long as you are under that guidance. But Krishna says in 15:15 that I am the goal of the Vedas. I am the compiler of the Vedas. So therefore, surrender to me. Just surrender to me. Once you surrender to me, I will take care of all of these religious duties. Krishna is coming to establish religious principles, he says, as well as to establish religious principles. But the same Krishna is saying that abandon all the religious principles. Just surrender unto me. So all these religious principles that are enumerated in the scriptures are authentic, are bona fide. But as long as one has not taken to devotional service, the part of bhakti is bounded by those good laws and rules. But when one takes to devotional service, by the grace of Guru Krishna, one is relieved of all of the reactions to those karmic or punishment that is attached to those regulations. So therefore, our regulative principles is not strictly Vedic, it is Bhakti. Our devotional life is guided by the principles of Bhakti, not principles of Vedic knowledge. If we want to follow Vedic knowledge, none of us will be able to even sit here to speak. And that is why you see that sometimes someone will say, I'm not qualified to speak this from a Bhagavatam. As a chandala, as a meat eater, as one who has eaten meat once in his life, you are not qualified to come near the scriptures. You are not even supposed to recite the mantra. But here we find the Melechas, Yavanas from Africa sitting, performing fire yagya, performing fire sacrifice. This is the double mercy of Guru and Krishna coming through the process of Bhakti. And that is why Bhakti is superior. So what you are saying are basic rules, guidelines. And as much as it allows us to function in devotional service, we should follow them. We are not saying you should throw the Vedic scriptures away, but the Vedic scriptures are guidelines. But that is why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, I'm not requiring anything from you. Just chant this holy name. By this chanting of the holy name, all of the imbalances will be corrected. So your three questions is answered in one answer, that all of these are rules and regulations. There are implications. If a wife eats before the husband, if a wife fasts without the permission of the husband, he is actually reducing the lifespan of the husband. But in this age, our mothers sometimes they will go to, especially some of them who have left the path of Bhakti, they will say they are going to church or mosque. And they describe some fast. Some woman will just say, I want to fast for the longevity of my husband without the regulation of the Vedas. And on any day, they just fast. They think they are doing good thing. They want to protect the husband, they are fasting. But they are killing the husband because a woman should never fast without the permission of the husband. There are so many regulations. But by those regulations, none of us will be able to attain because we will not be able to achieve it. In Kali Yuga, it is almost impossible to follow the Vedic principles. But we have the guide by the Acharyas, by the best of the Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas. They have given us the basic regulations, and that is why the 4 regulative principles of no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit are given, because this covers us from the basic sinful activities. And by the mercy of the holy name, we can attain the ultimate goal. So it's actually an express card, the part of Bhakti.
Thank you.
Yeah, Anadina, Prabhu, thank you so much for your questions. We had been thirsty of your questions for quite a while, so we're happy to hear you today. Shimala Prabhu, did you have something to share in this regard? You have your hand up.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. You see my hand up?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, it's my brother. Yes.
I'm sorry. Actually, that was now I thought I'd already put the hand down, but anyway, since you called my attention, I just want to chip in something.
Sure.
Not directly as answer to the question, but in comment to Prabhu's answer.
Okay.
Because when we say that we do not follow Vedic principles, but we're following Bhakti principles, I just want a clarification. Do Bhakti principles enhance Vedic principles? I mean, do Bhakti principles take precedence in terms of purity over Vedic principles, or is the other way around? Because from the way you're presenting it, it looks like Vedic principles are much more difficult to follow than Bhakti principles. I mean, that's how I get it. But I would rather think that Bhakti principles actually
Shimala Prabhu, I don't know whether you're using earpiece because your audio is not very clear.
Yeah, I'm also driving, so maybe that is why.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me
Yes.
better now? Okay, so I'm saying that
Yeah.
Bhakti principles actually take precedence over Vedic principles. That means that Bhakti principles take us more to the level of purity and perfection. In many cases, rather than over the Vedic principles. So I just want Prabhu to clarify that the fact that we're following Bhakti principles, does that mean that they are lesser, or they are in what way? I mean, because my impression is that it's looking
No, my
like Vedic
network
principles are
keeps
very difficult.
fumbling.
Vedic principles are very, very difficult to follow, and Bhakti principles are easier. So I want a clarification on that. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Salika, Prabhu, did you get his submission? Did you get his question?
No, I didn't get what he said. I was cut off for some time.
Okay. What he's saying is that you talked about Vedic principles and Bhakti principles.
Okay, that.
Yeah. So he's saying that Bhakti principles take precedent over Vedic principles in the sense that Bhakti takes us much closer to Krishna.
Yeah.
So does that mean that if someone is practicing...
That was what I was trying to explain when the line went off. Thank you very much for
pointing it.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying, that what I meant by that statement is that we are following the essence of the Vedic teaching. The Vedic teachings ultimately takes one. And that is why I started with that verse. If you remember, that verse by Shukadev Goswami, where Shukadev Goswami said that in the first canto, chapter 2, text number 13, Atapumbi Dvijas Resat, that, O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste division and orders of life is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the ultimate goal of the Vedic process of Vedic teaching is to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Bhakti is the process of pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the process of Bhakti is the essence, is the conclusion, Vedic teachings. Thank you very much for pointing out, Simon Prabhu.
Yeah. Okay, so Arichakra Prabhu, please you may unmute.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam, all glory to you, all glory to Prabhupada, and all glory to you, SALIKA Prabhu. But yeah, Mike, I'm still following up with Anandini Dhanam's question. I think the question, if I understood Anandini Dhanam properly, the question he was asking me, because in the text, I don't know whether it was directly read from the purport in the text, where I heard that he said, if you once you surrender, once you chant the names of Krishna, then you can easily establish Vanasha. And so if I understood Anandini Dhanam's question properly, the question was not, I think Salika, you were answering the question based on the individual chanting. Like if Anandini Dhanam, if we are chanting now, and Sahadev, after saying that he has been chanting for the past 30 years, over the past 30 years, and he's saying once you're chanting, your mind and your heart comes together, then you can feel the results of your chanting. But my understanding of Anandini Dhanam's question was, does that mean that in our movement so far, we haven't had even one person or a few people who have been able to come to that level of chanting purely for them to be in the position of establishing that Vanasha?
Yes, that was part of his question. Yes.
Yeah, that is how I understood the question. Does that mean that in our whole movement, we haven't had any group of people or any one person who has been able to come to the level of chanting purely in order to be empowered to establish the Vanasha for us? And after this question, I think if you want me to just ask my second question and you answer all together, or you want to finish this one before I ask my next question.
Okay, you can ask the question.
Okay, my next question is that in preaching,
you can ask the question.
Most of the time we preach, and it gets us more confused than explaining things to us. One of the things is sometimes devotees will say, "Oh, we are not this body." Somebody, like, for instance, somebody's parent leaves the body, and the devotee is going to try to go to the family and try to, associate with the family and all that. And other devotees will just come, "Oh, we are not these bodies, forget about this family issue," and blah, 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 blah. But immediately after that, we see our devotees, we will put tilak, we will put tika, sometimes we will put saffron. If we are not these bodies, why are we decorating these bodies for? What is the purpose of this? Why don't we just live? Because we are not these bodies. So sometimes it makes me feel like, why do we speak as if we don't even have to identify with anything in this world? Then we should just wake up and start walking naked. We don't even have to eat because we are not this body.
Thank you.
Let me start with the point I'm trying. Are you getting the point I'm trying to?
I think I get, but if I have any point, I will clarify.
All
but
right.
I think I understand your question. The first question, which relates to the Anandini Dhanam Prabhu's question, that does it mean that no one has become pure, or no one has been able to chant the holy name for him to be able to have been empowered enough to be able to establish Vana and Ashram? The question I will answer to make it clear, what I'm going to give as an answer is, was Srila Prabhupada not pure enough? A rhetoric question. Srila Prabhupada was a pure devotee. He is the Jagat Guru. He is the empowered incarnation of God. But Prabhupada did not fully establish Vana and Ashram. Does it mean that he's not chanting, or he doesn't chant purely? No. Desha Kala Patra, according to place, time, and circumstances, Krishna manifests his opulence in such a way that is accommodating for the environment. And that was why in my answer to Anandini Dhanam Prabhu, I explained that the perfection of Vana and Ashram within the 10,000 golden years will still happen, because devotional service is said to be individual and collective. So individually, each and every one of us may not be able to see that time. Like Vara Prabhu gave an example of Srila Prabhupada in 50 years ago, when there were no these temples, where there are no millions of devotees across the globe. And Prabhupada was saying, with time, this will happen. So in the same way, in these 10,000 years of golden age, Vana and Ashram may manifest at some point in time. But when we talk of individual devotional service, our goal should not be to establish Vana and Ashram, knowing fully well that according to place, time, and circumstances, it is not something that is possible. Prabhupada had everything to be able to establish Vana and Ashram. But because of the most important, he focused on what is most important for the time, and he gave that. So in the same way, there are those who are chanting purely in our movement now, who may not be having the focus on the Vana and Ashram, whose mission, whose empowerment, whose qualification will be to expand Krishna consciousness in a different aspect of it. So the fact that Vana and Ashram has not been perfectly established, even though there are so many devotees trying, does not mean that there are no persons in ISKCON who are chanting purely. There are those devotees who have attained that. And for us to see those devotees who have chanted or who are chanting purely, I say that we ourselves should become a chanter. And when we develop that ability to chant purely, we will see those devotees. They are there everywhere across the globe. They are chanting the holy name. But for us to see them, it is the qualification, it's the quality of our own chanting that will reveal them to us. That is for individuals who are chanting. But the fact that the pure, the Vana Anashram is not fully manifested does not mean. So that answers your first question. And your second question, if I understand correctly, when we talk about we're not this body, that does not mean that we are not in this body. We are not this body does not mean that we are not in this body. Presently, we're in this body. And being in this body means that what? Like Saturday, sometimes we always say, the moment a living entity enters into this material body, there are there are rules, there are regulations, there are things that are associated with this present body that we are in. So according to the kind of persons that we speak with. So therefore, it is said that preaching, Krishna consciousness is dependent on the class of the person who is receiving it. The teacher gives as much as who is listening. Lord Jesus Christ has the perfect knowledge of God, but he was only able to give as much as this listener could give. And that was why he said in the book of John that I have yet many other things to tell ye, but ye cannot bear them now. I'm teaching you things of this earth and heaven. You cannot understand. How then can I teach you things of the spiritual? So the teacher teaches according to this. So when we say that we are not this body, we are not outside of the philosophy, but different devotees, according to their expertise, according to their own qualification to preach, also preach according to their level. There are those devotees who have not reached that level of a preacher. They are trying to preach. So they must sometimes they will model up the philosophy. And that is understandable because our process is not that you become perfect before you preach. Our process is given to us by Srila Prabhupada is that we become perfect in the process of engaging in devotional service. So we don't have to become perfect first before we do devotional service. And one of the angles of devotional service is preaching. So in the same way, when we all join the movement, even when we're just 1 month or 3 days or 5 days in devotional service, we're taken out on Sankirtan and we are repeating what much we know. So the fact that somebody is not able or may not be able to present the philosophy as it is, and like it does not mean that the philosophy is not perfect. It does not mean that we are not this body. We're not this body. That is an absolute fact. But presently we are in this body. So there are considerations for being inside this body. Is Grace Bhakta Zan asked one question some times ago. I was disconnected. I wasn't able to respond. He was asking a question. If Krishna is so kind and merciful enough, why doesn't he allow us to remember our past previous lives? But that is the causeless mercy of Krishna, because if Krishna makes us to remember, we will not be able to fulfill the desire that we came into this body with. Our not being able to remember is part of the mercy of Krishna, so that we can be able to fulfill the desire that we have come into this body with. And that is why, while in the womb, the living entity is able to see all of his past life. But the moment it comes out of this, into this environment, immediately he forgets. Because Krishna wants him to be able to fulfill, because this purpose of Krishna giving all this body is to fulfill our individual and collective desires. So I hope that touches your concern, Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you. The part that you said that we are not this body, but we are in this body. I mean, it speaks a lot.
Thank you.
It speaks a lot. Because other than that, then it becomes very, very confusing.
Absolutely.
We are inside this body.
We are in
and
the body.
this body needs something. somebody gave us this body.
Exactly.
We didn't just drop from the sky to the earth. Somebody gave us this body. So why can't we give, what is due that person? If it's my mother, the fact that my mom does not call herself a devotee, or my dad does not call himself a devotee, doesn't mean I should just abandon everything and just be like. That's why I say sometimes we preach in such a way that we become like, what is this? So thank you for reminding me that we are inside this body, even though we are not this body, but we are inside this body. So we need things of this body to survive.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Babuji. Dr. Azan.
Hare Krishna, Your Grace.
Hare Krishna, Dr. Azan.
Please kindly accept my humble respect, obeisances, all glory to Guru, all glory to Srila Prabhupada, and all glory to the wonderful assembled devotees. I want to say thank you so much for the wonderful and beautiful class.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
You are one person which inspired me a lot. I have a lot of people who inspire me, a lot of senior devotees, and you are one of them.
Thank you for kindness.
I've heard your story before that you came from a Muslim background, and sometimes when we were in the midst of the teas, you have to come and kick the books and everything away. I just want to say a little something about you during this particular difficult. What really keep you going? What really inspire you? What really, because like I said, you inspire me a lot, and listening to you make me very, very, very happy and give me a lot of encouragement. So during the initial stages, the challenges you go through, how did you overcome them? What inspires you to keep going? This is what I want to, if you can share a little bit about that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Dr. Azan, for your kind words. Yasya prasada bhagava prasado, yasya prasada nagati kutopi. By the double mercy of Guru and Krishna, one who is a foolish one, dull-headed like me, becomes inspiring. So one first primary strong motivation for me was the mercy of my Guru Maharaj. I was nothing. I had no inspiration. I have nothing of my own. Whatever has manifested as any quality in me was the costless mercy of my Guru Maharaj upon me. I will share one dream to you that I've shared with some devotees. Before I joined devotional service, some few years before I joined devotional service, I've never knew what was the Vedic part, but I will always see someone in my dream who later on became my initiating spiritual master. And the situation manifested the year and the day I took initiation. I saw that dream in real life. In my dream, what I always saw was that I will see someone, I will see myself as an adult. As at that time, I was over 25, thereabout, or 20. At least I was above 20. But I will see someone come in my dream, and he will put me naked and be bathing me, physical bathing in my dream. And I'll be wondering, but I'm an adult, why is this person bathing me? And I'll see a kind of a setting. I never realized what it was. It was until the day I was going to take initiation, which was my first experience of initiation ceremony, when I saw the devotees, how they were gathered in one place and they bathed and shaved their hair. So that experience I was seeing several years before I joined devotional service. So when I remember that, when I remember what happened in my life, when I took initiation from my spiritual master, I always attribute whatever I am yesterday, today, and what I will become tomorrow as the mercy of my spiritual master. But more practically, because sometimes it's good to give some physical experience also. I remember one time when I just finished building the temple that Guru Krishna allowed me to build for their lordship in Jos. His Holiness Kapchana Maharaj, when he came, he said, "How did you make this? In the Nigerian economy of today, were you able to build this kind of a massive structure?" And I told Kapchana Maharaj, I said, "It's Guru's mercy." He said, "Yes, I know it's your Guru's mercy." But how did you do it physically? Practically, how did you do this? So yes, it is the mercy of my Guru Maharaj that has been inspiring me. But practically, what I do, practically that I know that has helped me, is that I'm always truthful to myself. And that is what Prabhupada said, as use the word sincerity. One of the first things that you can achieve is that never in your life of devotional service try to be anybody. Just be who you are. So in my devotional life, from the beginning, one thing that is very prominent in my life activities is that I never at any time pretend to be whoever I am not. I always acknowledge the fact that this is where I am. So I don't try, because devotees are, I'll give an example. When I joined devotionals, there are some devotees, they would sit down to chant 32 rounds. Some of them were even chanting more than that, but they have left devotional service today. So I never tried to copy what they are doing to become. I did what I knew that was practicable, that I could do on my own, and following that regulative principles. Recently, some years back, one devotee, just about 4-5 years ago, it's an Indian devotee, just similar question to what you're asking. He came to me, said, "Salika, how many rounds do you chant daily?" And I said, my chanting is not more than 20 in a day. On a good day, I chant 24. Sometimes I chant 32, but my regular is 20. He said, "No, I don't believe this. You are lying to me. There's no how you can be chanting 20 rounds and be like this. You have some exceptional quality." And I said, "But this is the truth about me." So, and that, not just the chanting, every aspect of my devotional life, whether it's following the 4 regulative principles, whether it's chanting the holy name, whether it is rendering service, I try to do what I sincerely know that I can offer to my Guru as an offering, even when it is not perfect, when I know it is not up to standard, but this is what I can offer. I make sure that I express that sincerity. That one practical thing has been my strength, and I can tell several stories that has manifested as a part of my sincerity. Let me share this as a conclusion of this. Because I've mentioned about building temple for the Lord. When I came to Jos, and Guru said, when Guru told me certain instructions, and I came to Jos, I saw that the environment was completely a working class congregation. None of them could give me anything that is meaningful to build. So I decided to go to the neighboring state, Kano. And there's one Indian man who I met. I spoke to him, was my contact. I called him and I told him, I said, "Look, I want to come to Kano. It's an industrial environment area. And I think I can get a lot of donation. I want to do some building for my spiritual master." He said, "Don't come now. Whenever the time is right, I will call you." So I waited for some time and I saw this man was not keeping me there. And I don't have anybody. I don't know anybody in Kano. So I decided one day, I just wear my dhoti, kota. Times are not like this that time. So you can still move. I moved with my dhoti, so with tilak, very powerful Lagos style tilak. And I went to Kano. And interestingly, I didn't have the transport to even come back enough. That was how bad things were for me that time. So I traveled to Kano. When I got to Kano, I had to trek several kilometers to be able to identify the man's house. And when I eventually got the man, there was no mobile phone as at that time. And the man told me, I had to look for Nitel, and the place I have to go to Nitel is a long distance. So somebody told me that it's another place. I don't have the transport, so I had to trek. So when I trek, I finally got to Nitel. I called the man's landline in his office. After calling him, Thank you. When I called the man, he said, I told you not to come. I said, but I have already come here. There's nothing I can do. He said, okay, you come to my house, but you can only come by 6 p.m. And that time it was around 12 o'clock or thereabout in the afternoon. I had not taken any food. I have not taken it. I don't have any money on me. I cannot even eat outside. And I had to stay by the corner. At a point in time around 3-4, I was so thirsty that I was almost fainting. So I was looking for, I had to go to one gardener who was wetting ground. That was the person that gave me water to sustain me before I could wait till evening. And I got water. So when I went there, finally I got to the man's place in the evening, 6:30 when he came from work. And I entered, I said, but you are a stubborn person. I told you not to come to this place. Don't come, but you forcibly come here. Why did you have to come? I don't know why you come here. Why did you even think about it? I said, well, my Guru Maharaj said I should go. And if I go, Guru and Krishna will help me. I said, that's why I come. I said, all I know is that my Guru wants me to build a temple for me. I don't know how I'm going to achieve it. He said, well, you said something, even though you are saying so much nonsense thing. He said, but you said one thing that is important. He said, what you said is that your Guru wants you to go. So let's see whether your Guru will help you now. I'll call somebody. And when he called that person, the very first person that he called, when he immediately called up and said, oh, thank you for calling me. I've been looking for opportunity where I would donate 500,000 naira for the strata of my mother. So tell that person he should give an account. And that's how I got the 500,000 naira. As at that time, it's more than 50 million naira now. In what? That's how I got the first seed money, which I started the building of the temple with. So sincerity, in summary, is what has been my inspiration. I do what I feel I can do sincerely, whether it is up to or not up to standard, but I sincerely do what I know that I can offer to my Guru and Krishna. And they have been helping me since then. Hare Krishna.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you very, 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 very much. I'm very, very grateful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Shri SALIKA Prabhu, thank you so much for sharing this wonderful personal story of one developing faith in Guru. Well, it's been over 2 hours, so we're probably going to end our Sangha for today, except someone else has something to share or ask. Anyone? All right, so we're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation to our revered speaker, His Grace Salika Prabhu. Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, God bless assembled devotees.